Good morning and welcome to my presentation for 21st Century Literacy Instruction. I prepared this presentation for Bob Petrillo and Teresa Petrowski. We are planning on implementing the new SMART schedule for the 2016-2017 school year, and I've been asked to help and do some research on what the best way to implement language arts would be in the middle school and in the high school. So I thought I would start off with a quote from Lucy Calkins, who was the visionary founder and the founding director of Teachers College Reading and Writing Project. And I really kind of liked this quote that she had about literacy. Literacy grows out of pedagogical theory that prides itself on being in step with the natural development of both writers and children. And I thought that this really did kind of envelop our mission here at our school and how to view literacy. Literacy, though, should be considered an every century skill, and I found some interesting statistics as I was doing my research. In the United States, an estimated 30 million people over the age of 16 read no better than the average elementary school child. Worldwide, nearly 800 million adults are illiterate in their native languages. Two-thirds of them are women. Yet the ability to read and write is the basis for all other education. Literacy is essential if we are to eradicate poverty at home and abroad, improve infant mortality rates, address gender inequality, and create sustainable development. Without literacy skills, the ability to read, to write, to do math, to solve problems, and to access and use technology, today's adults would struggle to take part in the world around them and fail to reach their full potential as parents, community members, and employees. In New Jersey alone, the results of the NAEP reading assessment revealed that students from low-income households made no significant improvements from 2003. So this is significant, and planning language arts instruction, I think it really should be implemented in the best way possible, and hopefully, my research helps and gives us a little bit of insight on how the best way to do this would be. So I had two goals, and it was to research the best practices when teaching reading and writing in language arts, specifically through grades 6 to 12, and also to provide examples of curriculum guides and schedules from schools that combine reading and writing into one unit of language arts instruction. So the results from my research included a pretty thorough analysis of the following districts, journals, and studies. I decided on schools that were out of state that combined language arts. Many of the schools that I did come across did not combine English and reading at the middle school level, so it was a little difficult for me to find some schools that did, but I was able to find one in Virginia, one in northern New Jersey, and then I was able to find one here in southern New Jersey, but it was a school that had a separate program, and I have an analysis of that in some of the later slides. Just give you a moment to look and see where I was able to obtain some of my research. So from my research, I found that high quality reading instruction really does depend on 6 elements. Number 1, sufficient time allocation, and that time allocated is used effectively. Number 2, data is used to form fluid instructional groupings. Number 3, instruction is focused on the essential elements of reading. Number 4, research-based strategies and programs are adopted and used school-wide with a high level of fidelity. 5, instruction is differentiated based on student need. And 6, effective teacher delivery is incorporated into daily reading lessons. My research revealed some of the best practices for language arts instruction, and from what I could find, I recommend that a standards-based reading curriculum be taught daily and across contents. Time allocated for reading instruction should be based on how far students are below grade level. Reading strategies should be taught explicitly before, during, and after reading of text. Reading should be authentic and relevant to students. Leveling tools such as Lexile, Fountas, and Pinnell, and Scholastic Book Wizard should be used and considered when choosing books that are appropriate to different reading levels. Writing workshops should be incorporated daily into lessons. And regular practice with complex texts and academic vocabulary should be utilized. When choosing complex text, I think it's important to consider qualitative, quantitative measures, reader, and task, especially with the new shift in the ELA standards. Middle school, 55% of the readings that students will be doing come from informational text, and that's across contexts through the humanities, social sciences, in all different areas. So children really have to be aware of technical vocabulary. In high school, 70% is now informational text, and a lot of these texts should be primary sources. Considering that, how much time should be allocated for language arts instruction, especially since kids are expected now to read more complicated text. According to a report from the Carnegie Corporation of New York, discussed in the Reading Next panel, grades 9 to 12 should have 2 to 4 hours of reading instruction daily. Reading across the contents may be included in this time frame. Grades 6 to 8 should have 40 to 60 minutes of daily direct reading instruction, and separate reading and writing classes are recommended. We know that this is not always possible, and during my research, I have some alternatives and options if that is not a possibility. Struggling readers in ELL students require 90 minutes or more of direct reading instruction per day. For some high school students, intensive reading intervention may be their last opportunity to close the achievement gap and become grade level readers. One of the most compelling findings from recent reading research is that kids that have a poor start at reading rarely catch up. Early intervention is key, and without intervention, the consequences of poor reading accumulate exponentially over time. So how are we going to combine reading and writing? At this point, it seems grim considering the recommended time allocation for effective reading instruction. There are possibilities, and these are some of the options that I came up with. If a combined reading and writing class is not an option, I believe that professional development could help teachers meet with other teachers. The English and the reading teachers can meet and offer valuable insight to each other on how to approach teaching reading using strategies that are effective, and also incorporating writers workshop into reading classes. The other option was to follow a model for the blended learning environment. I have more on a slide to follow. I used the example from Oakland Elmhurst Community Prep that utilizes a blended learning environment and able to maximize instructional time that way. Another option would be to allocate more time for language arts instruction into the schedule. If that's not an option, then reading intervention could be available as an extended language arts class for those students reading below grade level. We can study models from other schools as posted on the next several slides. The first point that I'd like to discuss is the blended learning environment. I believe that a blending learning environment can maximize instruction. Lessons can be screen recorded, just as I'm doing this presentation as you listen to it. Programs such as Screencast-O-Matic are able to take screenshots. Students are able to capture their PowerPoints, capture their presentations, capture their audio, and students may watch their lessons at home on their own time. This will help kids take ownership of their own learning, and it also maximizes communication between student and teachers. There are many different collaborative platforms that students can use to discuss academics with their teachers. Students can access audio and ebooks and continue their reading at home. You get data-driven results with many of these programs, such as Edpuzzle. Students are able to watch videos, respond, interact to the videos, and the teacher gets instant feedback as to how many students were able to complete the task and what the scores were. Not only do the teachers get instant feedback, but the students get instant feedback as well. Technology makes the best use of teacher time, and it is adaptable to meet student needs. So looking at Bedford County School District in Virginia, I particularly looked at a middle school, Forest Middle School. I looked at the middle school because I feel that some of the biggest changes in language arts literacy are going to occur at that level. A lot of my research revealed that cutting reading instruction would not be beneficial to the students. So I really focused on how different middle schools were handling this blended classroom of reading and writing. High school didn't seem to be an issue. The SMART schedule will allow language arts literacy to continue, and the students actually gain 3 minutes a day of daily language arts instruction. So in Bedford County, Virginia, they have a 7-period day. There were different lunch periods per grade. Lunch was divided into two 25-minute periods, and each class was 50 minutes. The language arts class was combined into one class. Now, this is not a Common Core school district. They have something called SOLs, or Student Objectives for Learning, and their student objectives for learning were comparable to the Common Core. I have a sample curriculum guide that I have copied for you, and after looking at their curriculum guide, it reminded me of what we had prior to our backward design that we had used when writing our curriculum now with the core content standards in mind. What I did like about Forest Middle School curriculum guide was that their reading was leveled. Writing and grammar were combined, and I believe that grammar should be authentically taught within the student writing. When I did a little bit more research on Forest Middle School, I did see that the district does use Title I funds for remediation of students that are reading below grade level. They combine reading and writing and grammar into 150 minutes. From what I could see from the curriculum guide, grammar is embedded into all writing activities. And there is a variety of nonfiction and fictional text throughout their 4 marking periods, each marking period being 9 weeks, which is very similar to what we have now. It seems that the loss of instructional time that they have lost because of the schedule may have been used through technology. The curriculum guide revealed a lot of technology that is used in their lessons. However, as I looked at it a little bit more closely, I noticed that it said that technology should be used at least once per marking period. So I'm not sure how that would make up for the loss of instructional time. According to the state report card for Forest Middle School, it seemed the majority of students did meet their accreditation benchmark, which was set at 75%, and the Virginia students scored 83, which was the average of 3 years, and that was presented in the 2015-2016 report. The proficiency gap for federal accountability was divided into students with disability, ELL students, and economically disadvantaged students. That was the first group. The second group were Black students, and the third group were Hispanic students. The first 2 groups of students with disabilities and Black students did meet their annual measurable objective, or AMO. It was set at 72. The results on the reading test were at 86, so that was well above expectations. However, the Hispanic student group was too small, so the data was invalid. Some background on the Bedford Public Schools is that it's located in central Virginia. The city of Bedford recently reverted to town status, and the schools have gone from city-based to a countrywide school system. There's 22 schools in Bedford County Public School District. The total enrollment is approximately 10,530. 36% of that population receives free and reduced lunch. Bedford Public Schools did not have a defined process for evaluating their major pilot programs and initiatives. General data analysis was available to administrators through the school board, and the recent report to the Director of Testing and Planning presented information on state accreditation and federal accountability. That report noted that Bedford County Public Schools has 9 schools that met all federal annual measurable objectives, but 12 schools did not meet them. 5 focus schools have been identified, but it was pointed out that the schools had shown improvement regarding state accreditation ratings on SOL tests and other approved assessments in English as well as other areas. These same 5 schools received accreditation with warning this year. So overall, my conclusion showed that this school really is not performing up to standards. Marlborough Township School District is in northern New Jersey near Point Pleasant, and they are a Common Core district, obviously. They have a language arts program that is blended in reading and writing into their middle schools. It's a standard-based reading and writing curriculum, and they used a writer's workshop framework, which I liked. In addition, they used a qualitative, quantitative, and reader text measures to determine text complexity for the works that they would choose to use in their school district. What I liked about this school district is that it was standards-based. There were explicit instruction of reading strategies and student-centered activities such as a reader's and a writer's workshop. Text complexity was based on the 3 measures that I had previously mentioned, and they have an actual district approach to teaching reading and writing through the use of workshops. Marlborough Public School District's approach to teaching writing is separated into 3 components. The first component is the mini lesson, which should last from 5 to 10 minutes. The next component is the actual writing time, which should last 30 to 40 minutes. It's during this time that students are writing about self-selected topics, and the process of writing is stressed. It is also during this time that students are pulled for small group instruction and or conferencing that happens both by the teacher and the students. Finally, the workshop ends with a reflective sharing session, which usually lasts 5 to 10 minutes. I like the district approach to writing because it is recommended that they write daily for real audiences and read authentic text every day. As they're doing this, they're applying spelling patterns, structural analysis to unknown words, they're correcting punctuation and grammar, they're studying other writers while consulting online sources for word recommendations. They self-assess using rubrics, and they're given feedback often. In addition, they have their reader's workshop where the teacher models reading strategies during read alouds, accountability talks, and various small groups. There are scaffolding through these small groups, and the accountability talks show different points, teacher points that are integrated throughout the lesson units and across the year. The explicit nature of the teaching component helps teachers plan many lessons and conferencing in small groups. The lessons include identifying figurative language and discussing different viewpoints, author style, and technique. The small group conferencing allows teachers to work with struggling students. I like this program. I like the approach to the reading and the writing workshop, and it is blended into one period. So I looked at the test scores for the Marlborough School District to see how they did and look at the data since I did like the program that they had. And when I researched Memorial Middle School, which is part of the school district, I noticed that the total enrollment was 673 students, so it was a very small school district. 91% of those students were white, 6% Hispanic, 1% Asian, 6% African American, and 2.6 students were of multi-ethnicity. There are 17% of students with disability. The regular school day is from 7:30 a.m. to 2:15. This school outperformed 73% of schools statewide, as noted by percentile scores. 59% of schools educating students with similar demographic characteristics, as noted in their peer school percentile performance areas of academic achievement. The school met 20% of its performance targets in the area of academic achievement, but the school did lag, however, in the area of student growth. When looking at the NCLB progress targets for language arts literacy, the scores did reveal, however, a different story. School-wide, the students did not meet their target. 79% achieved the goal, but the target was 84, so they did not meet their goal. School-wide, the majority of white students also did not meet their goal, missing the mark by about 4%. The Hispanic students met their goal by about 2%. Students with disabilities did not meet their goal. They were far below the target, which was 58.8%, and only 39.6% of these students passed. Economically disadvantaged students also did not meet their goal. It was interesting to look at the 2013 NAEP report, which focused specifically on reading assessment. For grade 8 reading, 40% of students were proficient, surpassing the average 32% for the nation. So the school is above average in comparison to schools across the nation. Kingsway Regional School District seems to be a school that we've been looking at really closely, especially since they do utilize the SMART schedule. Looking at Kingsway, they use something called the GRADE curriculum. Each letter in GRADE is an acronym, G being guided by curriculum, R standing for rigorous and relevant curriculum, E engaging and exciting, A assessment for learning, and T tailored instruction to meet individual needs. Their high school uses an academy-type curriculum framework that helps students make decisions and identify how specific courses correspond to a specific career and improve student skills, increase their potential for employment, and further their training and education. The high school SMART schedule works very well for language arts. In fact, we plan on having a similar schedule here at Washington Township High School. Their language arts literacy is divided into many different classes. They have a total of 19 courses that they offer for their language arts. Many different electives as well that will also hopefully help prompt some of the students to study a liberal arts type curriculum. They have Academy English 1, 2, 3, and 4. They have AP English 3 and 4. Creative Writing, which is offered as a full year. They have an English Language Arts Lab 1, 2, and 3. And in addition, there's an ESL course, Film Studies, Honors English 1, 2, 3, and 4, Public Speaking and Debate. English Language Arts Lab 1 is an 8-week session, and they offer 2, 3, and 4 as needed to students. Sometimes these students are able to take that first week, September to October, and then possibly part of November. This class provides additional support and scaffolding that builds upon the skills that they learn in their Academy English classroom. The year begins with the use of literature circles that reintroduce students to the 6 traits of writing. These traits being ideas, organization, word choice, sentence fluency, conventions, and voice. Whereas Academy English classrooms may be focusing on the 6 traits of writing in the summer reading novels, the ELA Lab class will be able to reintroduce students to the 6 traits and read a variety of pieces that illustrate the use of these traits. Following the literature circle, students will then move on to reading a selection of short stories and excerpts from non-fictional pieces. Ultimately, support will be provided for what the academic English classroom will be doing with short stories, and students will be able to see how authors use the 6 traits both for reading and writing. Finally, students will be responsible for a number of writing tasks. They will be guided through the process of writing a narrative story using the 6 traits of writing tied to literary elements. This will support their work in their Academy English classrooms by providing a structured means of tackling the task at hand, while also providing additional scaffolding through teacher and peer conferencing. Since informative essays will be written in the Academy English class, ELA Lab will directly correlate with this part of the course. ELA class time will be used for outlining, deciding between effective and ineffective evidence, and using the 6 traits of writing to support the creation of the informative essay. At the conclusion of the unit, students will have a 1-week reflection during which the teacher will conduct conferences, allow the students reflection by recalling past writing pieces, and through setting goals for future marking periods. Students will produce their work in an online portfolio. What I liked about this is that There is an intervention class that is available at the high school. It is the ELA lab, which I had just which I have just summarized for you. And the middle school has something called communications lab. Kingsway does offer a separate reading and writing class, which has been recommended, and through my research seems to be the best approach to teaching reading instruction to adolescents. They have a reading course, which in Kingsway's course name is English. The writing class goes by the Communication Lab title, and curriculum guides are available for you to review. If we look at the Kingsway SMART schedule, I'm just going to go up one more slide for that, we can see that it's very similar to what we plan on doing here at our high school. And I believe that it will work very well with the English classes that we have now. In fact, we should be able to add even more electives with the SMART schedule, which I really do believe is the best thing for the students. Looking at the middle school schedule is different at Kingsway, and I do believe, in my opinion, that reading and writing, it's going to be very difficult to combine the classes. I think it can be done, but I think that it's going to take some professional development and training. It's also going to take some curriculum evaluation and looking at the different texts that are available for the kids. Here is the schedule for their middle school, and as you can see, they have 12 periods. I'll just give you a minute to look at that. So according to that schedule, language arts literacy is being offered for 2 periods during the day. It is a comprehensive team-based approach to language arts literacy in their middle school. Looking at Kingsway Points of Pride, and according to the research that I've done, this seemed to be the best model to follow. Out of Gloucester County's 14 high school districts, Kingsway Regional High School's graduation rate was at 96.52%. They offered 19 different courses of study in language arts literacy. The critical reading scores were 500 on the 2010 SAT board scores. For HESPA, their language arts literacy had a total proficiency of 96.5%. The scores increased from 13.1% to 19.2%, and all LAL subgroups had an average scale score of over 200. Their New Jersey AS scores for both 7th and 8th grade were above the state mean in all 3 categories. And in addition, they were fiscally responsible because they were ranked 2nd in the state of New Jersey Comparative Spending Guide for the lowest per pupil cost. I hope that you found this research informative. There are many options for combining reading and writing or deciding to reevaluate the schedule at the middle school level. And I hope that you were able to get all the information that you need, and if there's anything else that you need for me to do, feel free to ask. I could provide some more information. I did spend quite a bit of time trying to find schools that offered both reading and writing together, and this was what I was able to get. So it is now time to write your story, and please contact me if you have any questions.